Hello and welcome to Rise. I am so honored to have today Dr. Ameet Aggarwal. He is voted one of the top 43 naturopathic doctors worldwide. Dr. Ameet has helped thousands of people around the world heal from trauma, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease by combining naturopathic and functional medicine, Gestalt, psychotherapy, family constellations therapy, EMDR, and homeopathy. His best-selling book and free online course on drameet.com will help you heal your mind and body together with emotional release techniques and holistic medicine. When you get Dr. Ameet's online course and book, you help poor and vulnerable children in Kenya receive holistic medicine. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, and greetings from Kenya, everyone.
Wow, Ameet, I'm so honored to have you here.
Likewise, thank you, Nunaisi. It's a pleasure.
What an honor. You are combining so many modalities in your practice. Can you expand on how you weave all of them together?
So, as a naturopathic doctor, we focus on, of course, healing the physiology of a person by healing the gut, changing the diet, detoxifying the liver, and also supporting different mechanisms, different biological functions in the body using herbs, nutrition, supplements, etc., and the right kind of anti-inflammatory foods as well. And as a psychotherapist, family constellations therapist, EMDR and trauma therapist, I strongly believe that releasing trauma is the key to really releasing physiological stress in the body that's contributing to disease. So healing the mind and body together are super important for a person's well-being. Yeah. Many people only focus on supplements and diet and nutrition, and they forget to heal their emotions and the what we call adverse childhood experiences from childhood that have programmed the nervous system to be exhausted or hypervigilant or nervous or just feeling unsafe. Yeah. And that contributes to a stress response in the body, messes up somebody's cortisol levels. And that, as we all know, leads to blood sugar imbalances, brain degeneration, chronic disease, hormonal imbalance, a whole myriad of symptoms. And other people, they focus on only healing their emotions. They go for therapy after therapy after therapy, and they ignore the fact that they might have food sensitivity or chronic inflammation coming from a poor diet, or a thyroid or in adrenal imbalance. Or my favorite topic is liver imbalance. Yeah, the liver helps to basically detoxify your body. It heals your gut, it reduces inflammation, it balances your hormones. And so without proper liver health, you're going to have indigestion, IBS, gas, bloating, premenstrual symptoms, anxiety, depression, various different pathologies related to your liver's work in the body. So you have to heal the mind and the body together by healing, of course, emotional trauma from the past, healing your gut, your liver, and the adrenal system, which I show you how on my website in a free video course as well.
I could not agree with you more. I must say that in my own journey, I've started with the physical. So I've studied a bit of naturopathy and I've learned about the physical, as you just mentioned, all those systems working together. And along the way, I realized that this is really the starting point, because if your body is not feeling well, you don't even have the motivation to go further. In a body that doesn't feel right, like you want to be in your own skin. If you can't even feel that you want to live in your own body, then you can't go further, right? This is kind of the foundation. But it's also not
Exactly.
enough just to heal the body, because as you said, there is a whole other aspect of it that if you're not looking there, then, you know, just a healthy body and not healthy spirit or emotional body or right want give you that sense of holistic and wholeness. So I love how you combine the two. or more than two. You use
Yeah.
quite a lot of modalities. Um, can you maybe expand a little bit for our audience that are not familiar with Gestalt therapy and EMDR, what that is?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as children, as an adult, and as adults, we experience a lot of trauma. Yeah, many of us. And it might not be big traumas
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, death of a loved one or being raped or abused, although a lot of people have that.
Mm-hmm.
It could be minor traumas as well, like mom going away for 3 weeks or something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
looking away, or dad just being absent for a brief period. Yeah. Um, but the combination, there's a multitude of traumas that really impact our nervous system. And we get a biological response in our body. And also, if there's family, like generational trauma from our ancestors, or if there's an abortion or miscarriage in your family by your mom, or there's a murder in some part of your family system, or you're descendants of some sort of war or Holocaust, all these experiences impact your soul, your consciousness, your subconsciousness, and your nervous system. And we're carrying these traumas energetically. And a lot of psychological techniques go into analysis, and they don't support the emotional release of energy from your nervous system, from your body, from your organs, and from the water molecules in your body. And I believe that a lot of emotions are actually stored in water molecules and as energy in the body system. Gestalt psychotherapy, EMDR, and family constellations therapy, if done in the right way, really help release the entanglements, yeah, of trauma in our nervous system. So you get an emotional and physical and visceral experience when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through therapy. And that's when you know that the therapy is really working, because your body feels supported, acknowledged, and that vulnerable part of you comes alive. It feels seen, which is not a bad thing. We encourage vulnerability in therapy. And if it's supported in the right way, you become stronger in that hidden part of you. Yeah. So we don't want to force a change in behavior when it doesn't happen authentically. Authentic transformation is the most healing and most long lasting
Mm-hmm.
transformation I've ever seen in my life. And then, of course, we have to combine these with healing the body. Why? Because I'll show you how your body, your gut, your liver, etc., affects your mind as well as anxiety and depression. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a gut, yeah, stomach and intestines. Intestines are like a nice lining kept healthy by good bacteria and good food. Over time, with antibiotics, poor diet, etc., this lining in your intestines gets damaged. The good bacteria get killed off. So we get holes in there. That's called leaky gut syndrome. With that, toxins go into the bloodstream and cause inflammation everywhere in your body, leading cause for asthma, eczema, arthritis, and of course, an imbalance of brain chemicals. Now, most of your brain chemicals like serotonin and GABA are actually produced in your gut, not in the brain. And so when you have an imbalance in your gut system, what we call dysbiosis, then you get an imbalance of brain chemicals, leading to anxiety and depression. Now let's go back to inflammation. All this inflammation from leaky gut is wreaking havoc in your body. Yeah. And it's also creating more toxins. So what happens is your liver becomes inflamed and overburdened with toxins. It produces less bile, this juice for digestion. With less bile being produced, then you get more gas, bloating, indigestion, and constipation, and a worsening of dysbiosis and leaky gut, because the bile is important for the good bacteria in the gut to flourish. So now we got this worsening of leaky gut, more liver toxicity, and the liver also controls hormones and many other chemicals in your body. So when you get liver stagnation, you go into now, in addition to digestive symptoms, you also get premenstrual symptoms, hormonal imbalances, estrogen dominance, mood changes, a progesterone deficiency. And when progesterone goes down, GABA doesn't work well in the brain. So you get more anxiety and insomnia. So you can see how your gut affects your liver and therefore affects your hormones and therefore your mood and your sleep. And that makes you very fatigued. And then you become more emotional and vulnerable to stresses in life. So you feel overwhelmed. And that is compounded with your traumas in your life that you have not healed. So your biology affects your response to trauma and emotions in your life, as well as your traumatic or emotional history. Both are making you super overwhelmed and vulnerable and overpowered by the stresses of modern day life. And now that brings me to the third pillar of health. And I cover this all in the free online course on my website. So if you get lost, just check it out. And there's a beautiful emotional healing exercise there as well. I come now to the adrenal system. Your adrenal glands are your fight or flight organs. They make adrenaline and cortisol in response to stress and inflammation. If you have unhealed trauma from your past, your body's in fight or flight all the time or freeze response. And your adrenal glands get overburdened and overstressed and they get exhausted. And the chronic inflammation also from leaky gut and liver toxicity also burns out your adrenal glands because your adrenal glands have to make this cortisol chemical to balance the inflammation. So a combination of unhealed trauma and inflammation exhausts your adrenal glands. Then you go into what we call a cortisol imbalance, an adrenal imbalance. That causes an imbalance in your thyroid hormones, your brain chemicals such as serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, as well as melatonin. So you go more into fatigue issues, anxiety, depression, insomnia, OCD symptoms, suicidal thoughts, negative thinking. Yeah. And so you go for all this therapy, you read all these books and stuff, and things don't get better. But when you start removing inflammatory foods from your diet, healing your gut with probiotics, vitamin D, and other supplements that I talk about in the course, and detoxifying your liver, and then using the right herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola, of course, check with your naturopath which herbs are good for you, but the right herbs to support your adrenal system while detoxifying your liver and reducing inflammation and changing your diet, boom, your mind becomes so much more stable and you heal through emotions and through trauma much easier because you have a clear mind and you're able to process therapy in a healthier way.
Wow, that was very detailed and wonderful explanation. Thank you so much for that. I think that is so much value for all of us to really make the link in a way that we can understand the relationship, right? Between all the parts of our system, because we are so multi-layered and so multidimensional, and it all needs to work in harmony for us to feel the best we can. And the good news is that once we are able to balance our physical and our emotional, that's where we can really thrive, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the funny thing is, when we have chronic inflammation and excessive cortisol, we have this thing called neuroplasticity, the ability of our brain and our nervous system to make new connections. If we are overinflamed and there's too much cortisol or a cortisol imbalance, then our brain cannot make new connections very easily. And so when you're going through any therapy, Gestalt, EMDR, trauma release, somatic experiencing, your brain needs to make new nervous connections to process that therapy, to process the new emotions. So if you are toxic and inflamed, you will not make those nervous connections that easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because your brain is bogged down. So you might feel dull during therapy, or you just might not get it. So if you want to get more out of therapy, emotional healing therapy, you need to heal your body first as well. And vice versa, yeah? When you heal the mind, the body also heals, but both need to happen together.
Yeah. This is vital. This is foundational, and I'm happy that you bring it in, because we cannot overlook the body when we discuss trauma. And again, creating that detoxifying and creating that balance is really key to then process trauma. So I'm really happy that you bring it together. And so if somebody comes to you for therapy, where do you start?
Well, I look at the history of a person, emotional history, as well as symptoms that are pointing me to an imbalanced gut, liver, and adrenal system.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have gas, bloating, eczema, arthritis, any chronic inflammatory condition, we know the gut is compromised. And then I look at their diet. So we remove the inflammatory foods, which I mentioned in the course. And then, of course, we detoxify the liver as well. and we change the diet. And while we're doing all that, then by looking at the emotional history, I understand what has happened to the person. Yeah, were they abandoned by their father? Did their mom suffer a lot of abuse? Or was their mom criticizing them a lot? What compensations has the client developed, yeah, in their heart, in their emotions, in their mind, in order to try and belong to society or to belong in the family or to feel safe? These compensations are very exhausting for a person. Yeah. And we don't realize how exhausting they are until they're acknowledged. And so I work very delicately with the person, very sensitively. Yeah. And I sense where the trauma comes from and what happened in the person's life. And then, of course, I add questions about what happened in their family history. Yeah, because using family constellations, we can heal generational trauma. Yeah, was the grandfather missing, or was he murdered, or was he in the war? You know, has there been an abortion or miscarriage, and you think you are the first child, but really you're the second or third child in the system? When you misplace yourself in your family system, you also get anxiety and depression. And we see that all the time in family constellation therapy. Yeah. So it's a very holistic approach to understand the whole experience of a person in this life, the foods they're eating, the emotions they've gone through, the state of their liver. All these things will affect the mind.
Yeah, I personally went through family constellation work and I found it to be profound. So I definitely advocate that. You know, I'm a third generation of Holocaust survivors, and that was definitely in my lineage. And along a lot more, of course, you know, we're talking about so much trauma. And I think that for all of us, no matter where we come from, if we look 7 generations back, not even that far, there is so much trauma that we carry, as you said, through our epigenetics. So yeah, once we acknowledge that, once we understand that, and once we have that visceral somatic experience,
Yeah,
we can really transform that and really clear generations back as well as generations forward, right?
absolutely. And when you heal generations back and you are healed fully, then your children suffer less. And also, when you go through that visceral experience and heal these traumas that are lodged in your nervous system and in your consciousness, what happens is that fight or flight response in your adrenal glands calms down because you're not guarding and protecting anymore, or you're not compensating anymore. And when that calms down, you save a lot of nutrients in your body. Your cortisol levels come more into balance. And then your gut starts healing. You detoxify better. All your organs, including your thyroid, start working better. So then you'll have less chronic fatigue, less depression, less anxiety, less food sensitivities, less physical ailments. So when you heal trauma as well as generational trauma, I often see physical symptoms healing as well because of that cortisol, adrenal, liver connection.
Yeah, so it's really about clearing those toxins, which are physical and emotional, and they so intertwined together that when you do the one, the other happens at the same time, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
Right.
want the listeners to be aware that even though they might not be aware of traumas in their life, to investigate your family's history
Mhm.
and look at also the foods you're eating and learn how to detoxify your liver in safe ways. Yeah. Ask your parents, has there been an abortion or miscarriage in my family? You know, what was my grandfather's life like? Was my marriage, was your marriage, ask your parents, was your marriage blessed by your grandparents? Yeah. Or was there any abandonment in the system? All these things are passed down through generations and we carry it without knowing it because we're born into the system. It's like if you're born in water, you don't know what it feels like to be out of water until you go out and you realize, gosh, this is what water felt like. Same way with values and beliefs in your family system. You don't realize you're living them and carrying them until you get a different perspective of how it feels to be healthy.
I love that. And I love how you said the trauma can be also something that our emotional system couldn't process quite well. So it doesn't have to be this one big transformational event, or, you know, those events that kind of make life before and after, right? It can be simply, you know, even, you know, a child took my personal item at school, or bullied me, or called me a name, and I didn't know how to process it emotionally. That could be
Yes.
trauma. And of course, added to that, I feel this is also an important point, which I write about in the book, is that as a society, as a culture, we suppressed crying as our natural mechanism to detoxify and to heal, especially
Yes.
for men. Do you find that
Absolutely.
also affecting our emotional state of being?
Absolutely. Nasi, we have so much stigma around crying, around anger, around emoting. You know, there's so many proper behaviors, and we have to be in accordance to either society's wishes or God's wishes. And that's indoctrinated upon us that our natural expression is not okay. We're not okay emoting. So I encourage people to feel more, yeah, while they're trying to feel better, or before they try and feel better, feel more of who you are, who yourself, and then naturally you'll begin to feel better. Because self-acceptance is one of the strongest medicines I've seen. Yeah, because sometimes we're denying parts of ourselves in order to belong to society or to a group of families or to a group in general, and then we suffocate our emotions.
Yeah.
And when you let go of that and begin to practice feeling more, feeling more, feeling more, then you begin to realize you belong to spirit, to God, to nature. And that's a very strong sense of belonging. So you become more independent, more resilient, yeah, and stronger in your mind as well as your emotions.
Yeah, I feel that, you know, every child that is born into this world, coming from that space of unconditional love, really have basic needs that he needs to survive, and that's besides the obvious of food and shelter and all of that. And
Hmm.
that's, as you mentioned quite a few times, to feel belong, to feel
Yeah.
accepted, to feel loved,
Hmm.
and to feel seen and appreciated, right? And when a child doesn't have those needs met, he will compromise his authentic self to feel that. So he will start moving from its own center, and, you know, maybe behave differently to what he feels, or you know, trying to be pleasing, or, you know, there's all sorts of ways that we as children really move from our authenticity to be accepted and belong in our family, in our society. And yeah, so
Hmm.
the way to come back home is to acknowledge that we as human beings have the entire spectrum of feelings, and we, all of us, will at one point, you know, will feel our heart broken, or grief, you know, loss of somebody we love, or anger, rage. You know, it's just part of our emotional human makeup. And
Hmm.
right, to allow that to.
Yeah. What exactly? And what makes some of these emotions more painful is our resistance to them
Mhm,
and our fear of them.
mhm,
Yeah. And our fear of not being accepted if we are carrying these feelings.
right.
And if we grow up in a society where these expressions are loved and acknowledged, and we get a sense of belonging when we are expressing in a safe way to others, yeah, no one's feeling awkward around it, then we feel more accepted, more full, more complete. And there's less shame around these emotions, so they become less painful to experience. We don't try and tuck them away or control them or make sure we don't break down.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And when you can feel safe in your own emotional experience, you will flourish. Your nervous system will flourish. Your body will become healthier. Yeah. So it's really about developing trust and finding the right therapist who can really acknowledge the safety of your feelings.
Mhm. I love that, because feelings that have been suppressed or shamed,
Mhm.
they are still hovering in the body, and they even consume some vital energy to keep them at bay, right? They,
Absolutely.
they, yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They eat up your nutrients as well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We see very often, magnesium and zinc deficiencies for people who are chronically stressed. Yeah, because your adrenal glands and your nervous system uses up those minerals, in addition to other minerals. Yeah, so not only does unresolved trauma use up energy, it also uses up your nutrients, and it also shuts down your ATP response and your mitochondria. So you'll feel more fatigued, and you won't process toxins and chemicals in your cells because your mitochondria are shutting down from chronic trauma or unresolved trauma.
Right. And yet this is the reality for so many people without them even realizing. As you said, they don't know that they, in water unless they are out of the water. And so they compromise in their life like that. And this has been passed through trans generations. And it's really when you come out of it and you realize that you don't have to live compromised like that, that we can really shift how our society looks like, right? Because
Absolutely.
I truly believe that no one is born bad, right? I truly believe that in the core of our being, we
Yeah.
all just, been wounded to be, for some to be doing some really horrific things in the world, right? Nobody is born wanting to do bad. It's really just a product of trauma, right?
Trauma, conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
ancestral traumas as well that
Mm-hmm.
you're carrying.
Mm-hmm.
We do certain strange acts out of loyalty to unhealed trauma in our ancestral line. Yeah, because it has not been acknowledged in the system. Yeah, good and bad acts are a result of unhealed trauma in the family lineage. And the faster you start acknowledging them and bring healing to them with healing sentences, and we do that in constellation work, either in a group you can find or we can do it online, then these behaviors will shift dramatically. Yeah.
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 And yeah, I mean, how will our world look like if people really take responsibility for their own being and start to shift all those things that stand in their own way to feel
Mhm.
great, right?
Absolutely. The world, I think, will come to a next level, a new level of
Mm.
consciousness. We're going into a more caring, more feminine cycle. Yeah, awareness, consideration for each other and for the earth. And this becomes easier when human beings are feeling safer with who they are and amongst each other. We
Mhm.
don't have to take advantage of each other or protect ourselves as much.
Mhm.
Yeah. When you can consciously and deliberately act in this life, yeah, in awareness of your impact on others and the importance of the delicate feelings of others, then we do less damage. And then we build more trust. And the more trust there is in the environment, with nature, with ourselves, I think we will experience something that we're not aware of yet. It will just blossom suddenly, and we'll have a completely different experience of life.
I also hold that vision in my entire being and in my heart. And I really hold that because we are capable of experiencing that. And although it doesn't look like that right now where we are, there's a lot of chaos, but I can see beyond that chaos. I feel that we are in a what you probably know the term a healing crisis, right? That things are they
Things
get
are
worse to
shifting.
get better.
Yeah, things are shifting, and all this drama that's going on in the world, it's putting a lot of fear in a lot of people. At the same time, we have to look at it that a lot of things are being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and exposure is acknowledgement. And the more things are exposed, then the more free people get, because then we get more rights. People are, how do I say it? The perpetration is diminished.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then we know what is appropriate behavior, what is safe. And those who are perpetrators are held accountable. So you will see more and more exposure of perpetration coming up. It doesn't mean that there's more perpetration going on, it's just more exposure going on of it. And this will be freeing to many, many, many souls. And then we will develop better systems in society to ensure it doesn't happen again. Yeah. And we'll learn how to live better. And dysfunctional ways will just fall away. Yeah. Human beings cannot be sustained with anger, aggression, and unhealthy lifestyles. You see the explosion in holistic medicine. Yeah. More and more people are going to that. Yeah. You see the exposure of the negative side effects of certain drugs. So this exposure is reinforcing the importance of holistic medicine, for example. It's not that there's more bad in the world, the bad is getting exposed so that the good is more supported.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we are coming to the end of our conversation. It was very enlightening, and I really thank you for all your knowledge and your commitment and the goodness that you're doing in the world. And if people want to work with you, find you, what's the best way?
So the free online course, the free part of the online course is on drameet.com, drameet.com. Yeah, just some free videos on how to heal your gut, your liver, your adrenal system, and your emotions. And then you can always book an appointment from that website as well.
Thank you so much, and blessings your way.
Blessings and thank you. Lots of love and good healing to everyone.